Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today is September 27, 2023. And today is the appearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So we are going to speak and discuss the life teaching of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and try to understand what is it about Bhaktivinoda Thakur that's so important for us to know. So that's what I'm planning to do. And we can start with some invocation. First, the Guru Pranam. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jala Shalakaya Chakshun Militan Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master. And then Srila Prabhupada's pranams. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirviseshya Shunyavadi Paschacha Dejatarini. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirviseshya Shunyavadi Paschacha Dejatarini. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Sarasvati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. And then we are going to recite Bhaktivinoda Thakur Pranam's mantra. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchit Ananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Upanuga Varayate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sakshidananda Bhaktivinoda, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. So I had the great fortune to read about Bhaktivinoda Thakur while I was in the wood on, when was that? Monday morning. And it was a very peaceful place to absorb myself in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's pastime. I had printed some Life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur excerpts a few years ago, and I just went back to my notes and read through my notes again. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and why is it important for us to celebrate his appearance day? And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the father of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. Okay, so why is it? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, so Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur is the spiritual master of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So that's how significant it is that in many religious group that are so-called religious group, it's very difficult to retrace the line of teacher from one teacher. And in Bhagavatam, it is explained that knowledge is kind of, we can imagine a very, very tall mango tree, for example. And then someone picked a tree from the mango tree And then all down the ladder, there is people. And then he handing very carefully the fruit, the mango, to the next person, who handing to the next person. And then the mango, when it's arriving, not only it's intact and it's protected, but also it's even sweeter because it's been touched by people's energy. And the mango, when it's arrived, it's sweeter. So that's a description given in Srimad Bhagavatam of what's a disciplic succession, and how every part, every part of the chain. How you call a thing in a chain? In chain is made of many things like that. Huh? Links. But I was looking at I don't know, but so every part of the disciplic succession is giving us something special. So the first person in a disciplic succession, which is Krishna, exactly. And if it's not Krishna, then that's not a bona fide disciplic succession. If we go back to a line of teacher, and we found that at the end what we have is a human being, then that's where we will go, to be a human being again, because we are receiving teaching from a human being. So when looking at any teaching, we say, okay, where does it come from? And then we can retrace it all back to Godhead. So Krishna giving his knowledge to his first created being, Brahma, and Brahma will give it to his son, Narada. Narada give it to his disciple, Vyasadeva, who is also a literary incarnation of Krishna, and Vyasadeva giving to Shukadev Goswami, and like that, it's coming down to us. And then, if we go a few thousand years later, then there is Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, and then Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya is coming to revive Krishna consciousness and establish the Sankirtan movement, the Yuga Dharma, the way of realizing God for this age of Kali. That's what Lord Chaitanya came. He said, okay, I'm going to establish the way, Yuga Dharma, the Dharma of this Yuga. Yuga is Kali Yuga. The Dharma for this Yuga is the chanting of the holy name, congregational chanting of the holy name. So Lord Chaitanya came to establish the chanting of the holy name. And then there is Nityananda, and then the six Goswami, and Nautam Das Thakur, and like that, a long chain of disciplic succession coming up to our last four. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was here, and then who gave, with like the eternal spiritual master of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, after the next link, is Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj accepted his eternal disciple as Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, who is the eternal spiritual master of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he happens to also be the father of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. So we want to know at least those four, and and mainly Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that really affecting us. And why affecting us? I'm going to read an excerpt from my papers here. If I find it quickly. Because there's many pages. Took me a long time to read them. Not going to read them. I'm going to read some excerpts though. The importance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur for us, before we go into this biography, is important for us. And I don't have glasses, so going to get some glasses. The importance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur for us is like critical, very critical, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the first one who really had a vision. So this is from something that have been compiled based on the life and precept of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In many ways, aspiring devotees of Krishna today owe a significant debt to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur for charting the course and laying the foundation for the modern day Krishna consciousness movement. So that's how important it is. We have a great debt. Once, as he looked out from his window across the river towards the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a vision that people from all nations will soon come together there in harmony through the peaceful chanting of the holy name of Krishna, Sankirtan. His great grand disciple, Srila Prabhupada, who humbly and fearlessly spread Krishna consciousness to the far corners of the world, through his significant, thought it significant that he was born in 1986, a year that the Thakur sent copy of Life and Precept of Lord Chaitanya to university across the ocean. So that's how significant Bhaktivinoda Thakur is. Before that, like Vaishnavism, the chanting of Hare Krishna, was kind of the monopolized in India. And in fact, most Brahman in India were thinking that it belonged to them. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he heard Lord Chaitanya's prediction. Lord Chaitanya said, like every town and village. And every town and village doesn't mean every town and village in India. Lord Chaitanya didn't say that. He said every town and village. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first acharya to take this word very seriously. And as we just read, one day he had a vision and he saw people from all nations dancing in Sridham Mayapur. And for the last 50 years, people from all over the world, from Africa, Asia, Europe, America, Indonesia, Australia, anywhere, everywhere, China, Japan, from everywhere, they go and dance and chant together in Sridham Mayapur. So that's quite exceptional. And then V6 he said also something else, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had that vision. So after he had that vision, he decided, I'm going to do my part. And he decided to send the precept, a life and precept of Lord Chaitanya in English to university. And his book was kept at the library of the Oxford, I think, University of London, and at the McGill University in Montreal. And he did that the birth year of Srila Prabhupada. So that's also very significant that the year Srila Prabhupada was born is the year Bhaktivinoda Thakur was inspired by Super Soul, by Krishna, to send those books overseas, foreshadowing the teaching of Lord Chaitanya arriving and coming, and foreshadowing that soon people from all over the world are going to chant the Maha Mantra. So that's how significant Bhaktivinoda Thakur is. Any question, comment at this point? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we are going to situate him like now in his biography. He was born in 1838. He was born in 1838. He was born in a quite wealthy family. His father was a Vaishnava, follower of Nityananda, but the rest of his family were not. And in fact, the rest of his family, they were looking down on Vaishnava, and there is good reason for that. And unfortunately, at the age when he was 11 years old, his father died. And then on his mother's family, where he was staying with his grandparents, they lost their wealth. So from being born in a very wealthy family, he became like almost poverty stricken. And at that time, his mother was worried that he's not going to be well off. So she arranged a marriage for him. And he was 11-year-old and he was married with a little girl, 5-year-old. So in India, on those times, it was common to do that because like that, the girl was secure. She didn't need to look around for a man. And then the man felt responsibility to take care of a little girl. Not that they will live together. They waited until, they were in age to live together, that, they were mature enough and also biologically speaking, capable of having children. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at that age, he went to his uncle who was living in Calcutta. And his uncle was a prolific writer. He was writing. And at the time, his uncle was really influenced by the English because the English were occupying India was the English territory, basically. So all the English who were living there, a lot of very wealthy English ladies and gentlemen, they were living in India, a very abundant life with many servants. And they were ruling the nation. They were ruling in India. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his uncle were part of a community called the Bajra Loka. And the Bajra Loka, they were people who kind of appropriated or accepted the Western way of life. They accepted the Western way of life, and in a sense, for them, it was like a breath of fresh air. And it was a breath of fresh air because at that time, it seems that Indian culture had quite degraded from the time of Lord Chaitanya. And like all those rules, regulation, Hinduism was feeling burdening, more like superstition and oppressing kind of society and culture more than elevating. That's how he felt to those people, the Bhadralokas. And then, so when they receive the rationalism of the English culture with all the philosophers of the time and the Christianity, then it felt refreshing for them. And in fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur spent a lot of time studying Christianity. And he was very fascinated by different writers. And I don't remember the name of all the writers, so I need to find it in my notes. And so he was quite influenced. He was part of like the career stars. They were business people mainly, and they were doing well. And of course, the business people is so like, let's cooperate with the English. They didn't go against them, and then they accepted the influence. So I'm looking for, I know he was reading books like from Thoreau, Emerson, Christian philosopher. I have a list, but I'm not finding it right now. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur studied all religion. He was very inclined to study many religions until in his 30s, he found a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's very interesting. It means that the Srimad Bhagavatam was not widely published, and it wasn't easy in 1800 to find a copy. Like books were very rare and precious at the time. Right now we take them for granted because they are easy to find. We can just go on Amazon and get some books, but at the time it wasn't the case. The printing press, were very rudimentary, and many books were just copied. And he also found a Chaitanya Charitamrita. And by studying all the religion, he came to the conclusion at one point that Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the Lord Chaitanya's movement, was the most bona fide religion. And it was his realization that and that's quite amazing, because at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vaishnavism had been very degraded. And in fact, in the name of Vaishnavism, there was a lot of Sahaja pretenders and people who, in the name of worshipping Krishna, they were dancing with many women and living a very degraded life in the name of Vaishnavism. So for Bhaktivinoda Thakur to be able to pierce through and to go back and see, wow, what is done in the name of Vaishnavism is not following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. And so from that point on, he took the mission of reestablishing the purity of Lord Chaitanya's mission and the purity of the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. So again, that's very significant for us, because unless he had done that, we will not have received the pure teaching of Lord Chaitanya. So he was also a prolific writer. From the time he came to his uncle at 11-year-old in Calcutta, his uncle right away made it the editor of a newspaper. And he started the little Bhaktivinoda. Kedarnath Dat was his name when he was born. He was born. His name was not Bhaktivinoda. That was given to him later on, but he was Kedarnath Dat. And at 11-year-old, he could write in English. And in fact, he spoke so many languages. He could speak English, Hindi, Sanskrit. He wrote books in Sanskrit, and then a few other, 5 or 6 languages he was able to speak. And when he was 18, he went to a English college. So again, he continued in English education. So that's kind of put him aside from the rest of society of India, in the sense that he was very qualified to understand the mind of Westerners and to understand their culture and understand also their origin, Christianity. And then when he finished his college education, what will be natural for his background to be a businessman, but he found that businessmen were not very truthful or honest. And he decided that he didn't want to be a businessman. So he started education. He started to go into teaching, and he opened a school to give English education in some town in India. And then his life really, when it comes to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life, we can, sometimes people complain, they say, oh, I cannot chant, or I cannot really fully give myself to Krishna consciousness because I have so many responsibilities. So Kedarnath, all his life was dedicated to Krishna. He was married, his wife died when she gave birth to his first son. And then he remarried because he wanted to have a wife to take care of his son. And after that, he got another 10 children. And so he had a very big family. And all his sons are very, very well educated. One of his sons is Bimala Prasad, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And his life was difficult because the salary of teacher was very, very poorly. The teachers were poorly paid, And often just to rent a place for his family was more than half of his salary. So we can look at where, he struggled in so many ways, had many responsibilities. And then at one point, he was offered a government post because people in the town where he was, and many the English people, they could see this person is really high quality, high character, honest. He knows, he understands the English, he understands the Indian. It will be perfect to give him a government post, and a government post in a magistrate, like let's say constable, in the area of law and making sure that people follow the law and like that, all those things. So that he had different, and then he had to move so many times. He had different position. So with his family, he moved so many times. It's not like that he had a very stable, wealthy, comfortable, easy life. Not at all, quite the opposite. So above all, Bhaktivinoda Thakur thought devotion to Krishna by his personal example. His life story excerpted below demonstrate a tremendous amount of courage, character, and perseverance in the face of many difficulties, and give hope to those of us who may be wondering just how to find the time to serve Lord Krishna, His holy name, and his devotees in our ever busy lives. So if we feel that we are very busy, too busy to serve Krishna, we can absorb ourselves in the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we will understand how it's always possible. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very, very austere. Yesterday, on Monday, I read to Valerie his schedule every day. So that was written by one of his Lalita Prasad, which is his seventh son, I believe. Bhaktivinoda Sarasvati Thakur was born Bimala Prasad, was his fourth son. So the seventh son says, he included the schedule of his father, remembering his schedule of his father. So his father will take rest by 7:30 or 8 p.m. in the evening. He will take rest. By 10 p.m., he will rise. So 10 p.m. is like 2 hours later. He will rise, in the light of an oil lamp, he will write. And he wrote more than 100 books in his life, more than 100 books. And then at 4 a.m., he will take rest. Of course, he will take rest and get up at 9. No. At 4:30, like everybody else, he will rise. So here is like 30 minutes rest. He will rise, wash hand and face, and chant Hare Krishna mantra japa. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we can imagine he was chanting probably 64 rounds a day. Like a lot of our acharyas, that's what they do, 64 rounds a day. It's kind of inconceivable. For me, when I chant 64 rounds, it takes me about 9 hours. I have done it, and it takes about 9 hours to me, 9 or 10. So, and then at 7, he will write letters, because many people, he became famous in a Vaishnav world, in a Gaudiya Vaishnav world. He became an important leader, and that's how he got the name Bhaktivinoda. And he became an important leader, and many people were writing letters to him. And then the English government also, they had a lot of trust in him. In fact, the English government, they were careful who they were giving government's position, for Indian, because they didn't want them to, use their position to create revolution or anything like that. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur got the higher rank possible for an Indian in the British government. So 7 a.m. he will write letters, 7:30 he will read, 8:30 he will receive guests and continue to read. 9:30 to 9:45 he will take rest. So we see the first time he take rest, he take 2 hour rest. The second time he take 30 minutes. And then the next time he take rest is 15 minutes. At 9:45, he will take a bath. He will take a breakfast of half a quart of milk, couple of chapatis, and some fruits. So that's his first meal. And at 9:55, he will go to court. That was when he was living in Puri, in Jagannath Puri, because he was a magistrate in the court system of Jagannath Puri. So he will wear a coat and pants to court, and with a double-sized tulasi neck beads and Vaishnav tilak marking on his forehead. He was very strong in his decision. He will decide immediately. He did not allow any humbug in his court. No upstart could stand before him. He will shave his head monthly. He never allowed. Okay, that's something else. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it is said that he will do his 8 hours job, like people have 8-hour job. He will do it in 2 hours a day. It will take 2 hours because his mind, because he was, as a pure devotee, he understand everything and he could see everything. So he will not need to study too long or understand what was happening. He will cut through so easily that he was doing his daily work in 2 hours instead of 8. So he will go to court, and at 10 a.m. the court will start with people coming, and it was very easily you could see through. There is example. What was happening, who was guilty, and what needed to be done to rectify the situation and amend, and what was the proper consequences for the people who committed crime. And at 1 p.m., the court was finished, and he come home and bathe and refresh. And at 2 p.m., he will return to his office at the court and until 5. And at 5 p.m., he will go home and translate work from Sanskrit to Bengali. And then he will take a bath and meal of rice, couple of chapati, and half of quart of milk. So you have 2 meals a day of milk, chapatis, and then in the morning a little bit of fruit, and in the evening a little bit of rice. And that's the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Any question, comment, or things that you'd like to hear about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Because before we go on.
Can you say more about, you said that he brought us the pure teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you say more about that? I mean, and then you mentioned that he also uncovered the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was not common during that time. Was that?
He didn't uncover it, he just found a copy of it. And it was not very easy at that time to find, books were very precious. Now it's so easy to print book, but at the time even print was difficult. There was not so many prints, so it was difficult. So he found the Srimad Bhagavatam and he found the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which he was very, very grateful to find those books. And he studies them and really absorb himself in them. And then when he absorbed himself in them, he really came to the conclusion that's the highest form of philosophy. And then the Gaudiya Vaishnava really, he already have studied so many religions, and he was a servant of God. He was eternal servant of God, a pure devotee of God that was directed towards a certain mission. And his mission was to reestablish the purity of Vaishnavism, because at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the reason his family kind of were laughing, they were putting down Vaishnavism because Vaishnav at the time, most of the Vaishnav, not all of them, the proof is that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was there, not all the Vaishnav, but what commonly was known as Vaishnavism. Like we can see that now, like what's commonly known as Christianity, doesn't make sense in terms of, Christ's teaching. Most of it is like, people who have barbecue at church and and they drink during the week, and it's just very corrupted Christianity. It doesn't have anything to do with the true teaching, precept, example of Christ's life of property, of service to others, of the life of a pure devotee who just want to serve God with non-judgmental, so if we see Christianity now, most of what's going on in the name of Christianity, it has lost the purity of Christ's teaching. So at the time, most was, but it doesn't mean that we don't find pure Christian now. There is a lot of pure Christian on earth. People who really live abiding by Christ's teaching. But most of what's going on is kind of a farce. It's kind of light. And, I remember the last time I went in a Catholic church in France was for the wedding of my nephew. And the priest arrived 2 hours late and he was drunk. So that's what's going on. And, that's what people know in that village. That's what Christianity is. So they don't go to church. They don't care about Christianity, and maybe they put it down. So similarly, the Vaishnavism, the people who were so-called practicing Vaishnavism at the time, they were acting in a way that was very degraded. They were, go out with wife, with the wife of other men saying they are Krishna, and, abusing the teaching to support their sense gratification. And so many people in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's culture or like his background, they were looking at that and say, this is not very attractive and we don't want that. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur had those sentiments too when he looked at the Vaishnav, until he stumbled upon those teaching, and then he really allowed himself to go there, which shows his character, which shows that he's capable to, let's look into it. Let's look into Christianity and Catholicism. Even so, the priest is drunk and arrived 2 hours late for a wedding. Let's go and see. That requires a lot of character to do that. And then he established, Lord Chaitanya's teaching in his purity. And did I respond to your question?
I'm still kind of confused on how he brought Lord Chaitanya's teachings.
How he did it. Okay.
Well, you said that he brought us the pure teachings.
Yeah. So he can he took a stand for the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. And there is an example, for example, there was a very, very powerful yogi. There was a very powerful yogi, and he was established in a village not too far away from Jagannath Puri. And that powerful yogi, he could he will sit like that and put himself in fire and not be burned and come out. And he will be able to bring fire inside his hand like that, not with kerosene, just like that. He was very, or he will, if he wanted to light a fire, he was just doing that, and there was a light, the fire will come. So all the villagers, because they were naive and they didn't know the proper teaching of Vaishnavism, they kind of started to worship him, and he was telling him, I'm God, I'm Bhagavan, worship me. And then little by little, the villagers really believed that this very powerful yogi was God. And then they started to bring their wife, bringing their young virgin daughter for him to be with them. And then that yogi, his problem is that he was telling everyone, follow me, and we are going to throw the British government off. We will do a coup. And, follow me. I'm here to save you from the British. And the British became very worried about it. However, because he was such a powerful yogi, even the British, people, they were scared to approach him. And also he had so many followers that, they knew that if they tried to do anything to that person, they could really rise a riot. And really, the British, they were in minority in India, which is really interesting. They were in such a minority. but the minority was ruling over everybody else. So the British government went to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he heard about that yogi who was pretending to be Krishna, he became furious. He became so furious at the abuse of the innocence of the people of those villages. And so he went there with the Bhagavatam under him. He went there with the Bhagavatam, taking shelter of the Bhagavatam. And then he went to see that yogi, and he said, and then when he arrived to the yogi, he said, "Oh, you are Bhaktivinoda Thakur, join me." And Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't very impressed by his mystic yoga that he knew about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't lose track because he knew the truth. He knew who God is, and he wasn't bewildered by that very powerful personality. And then with the help of the reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, he kind of was able to take a lot of his power away. And then after he got him arrested. And when he was arrested, that yogi still had some power, and he attacked Bhaktivinoda Thakur's daughter first, and wife, and all his family with like a deadly disease. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he went to court, and the court was for like 15 days or something like that. And everybody was so afraid. And at one point, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he understood that the power of that yogi was in his dreadlocks. And he said, "Go call a barber." And the barber came, and he was completely afraid. He said, "I'm not going to touch a yogi. I'm going to die if I touch a yogi." And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was extremely sick with high fever. And he took the scissors and he cut his hair. And as soon as he cut his hair, the yogi completely collapsed. He had to be taken out of the court on a stretcher. And then everybody could see, oh, he wasn't God. If you cut the hair of God, God is not going to collapse. Yeah. So then everybody could see, and then he was condemned for abusing women and doing all those crimes and abusing the naivety of the. So that's a way. And also Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a lot of books. And in his book, he was able to denunciate what was done in the name of Vaishnavism and how it wasn't following the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. And little by little, all the Vaishnavas, because there was some Vaishnavas that were practicing purely, they became stronger and stronger. And then Vaishnavism started to spread again, and more people took back the purity of the teaching. All those people that were away from even Hinduism, the Veda, because they thought that there was more rationalism and logic to whatever the English were bringing. They were able to see through that, no, in fact, our culture is so much deeper. There is so much deeper philosophical truth to our culture. But because the way it was given was so shallow, we didn't see that. But now we see. Now, with the help of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we see. Did I respond to your question? Any other comment, question? I was thinking, we could go on with this life, but maybe we can go to reading some of his writing. Yeah, because that's a book I really love. It's Book of Songs. And one of the book is called Sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrender. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it describes there is 6 items of surrender. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes song for each of those items. And the first item of surrender is humility. And then the next one he writes about is Atma Nivedana, dedication of the self to Krishna. And then the next one is Goptritve Varna, acceptance of the Lord as soul maintainer. So that's an item of surrender, to know I'm maintained by Krishna. I'm not maintained by my job. I'm not maintained by my parents. I'm not maintained by, stock market. I'm always maintained by Krishna. And that's when we accept that, then it's an item of surrender. And then Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara, renunciation of conduct unfavorable to pure devotion. And Avashya Vashikbe Krishna, Vishvashvapalana, Krishna will surely protect me. Faith in Krishna as a protector is also, and we were speaking about that in our class Saturday? I think it was Saturday about the connection between surrender and courage and protection. So when we accept that the Lord is my sole protector, that there is no other protection, but the lotus feet of the Lord, then that's an item of surrender. And then the last one is Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyena Shvikara, acceptance of activities favorable to pure devotion. So I'm going to read a few translations, and I'm going to read the introduction song to Sharanagati. It's translation. We could sing it, but we are going to just read. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu descended from the eternal spiritual world along with his personal associate and divine abode, incarnating in this temporary material world out of compassion for the fallen souls. So that's a song written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In order to freely distribute the gift of ecstatic love of God, which is very difficult to obtain, he taught the path of Sharanagati, devotional surrender to the Supreme Lord. This Sharanagati is the very life of the true devotee. The 6 ways of surrender through Sharanagati are Danya, humility, Atmanivedana, dedication of the self, Gotritve Varana, acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer, the consciousness of Avashya Rakshibe Krishna, Krishna will surely protect me, which is Vishvashya faith in Krishna, Palana protection. 5. Bhakti Anukula Matra Karya Shvikara, execution of only those acts favorable to pure devotion. And Bhakti Anukula Matra Karya Shvikara, execution of only those acts favorable to pure devotion, and renunciation of conduct adverse to pure devotion. Sri Nanda Kumar, the youthful son of Nanda Maharaj, hears the prayer of anyone who takes refuge in him by this 6-fold practice of surrender. So Sri Nanda Kumar is Krishna. Nanda is the son, and Kumar, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is Krishna, the youthful son of Nanda Maharaj. Hears the prayer of anyone who takes refuge in him by this 6-fold practice of surrender. Bhaktivinoda prostrates himself at the feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan Goswami, places a straw between his teeth and claps their lotus feet with his hand. Weeping and weeping, he tells them, I am certainly the lowest of men. Oh, please make me a worthy host by teaching me the way of Sharanagati. So that's the introduction to Sharanagati. So, and then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes a lot of songs that help us to develop Sharanagati. And when he does that, he really embodies what it means to live in this world. And we have many songs in our songbook where it's really unbelievable how we can connect with us. So here I'm going to read one of them. Oh Lord, I forgot you and came to this material world where I was experienced a host of pain and sorrow. Now I approach your lotus feet and submit my tale of vow. While still bound up tightly in the unbearable confine of my mother's womb. So he's thinking of the soul coming in the body, in the womb. Oh Lord, you once reveal yourself before me, appearing only briefly. You then abandon this poor servant of yours. At that moment I thought, after my birth, I will worship you. But alas, after taking birth, I fell into the entangling network of worldly illusions. Thus, I possess not even a drop of true knowledge. As a dear son fondled in the lap of relatives, I pass my time smiling and laughing. The affection of my father and mother helped me to forget you still more, and I began to think that the material world was a very nice place. Day by day, I gradually grew into a young boy and began playing with other boys. Soon my powers of understanding emerged, so I diligently read and studied my school lesson every day. Proud of my accomplishment and my education, later I traveled from place to place and earned much wealth. Thereby maintaining my family with undivided attention, I forgot you, O Lord Hari. Now in old age, this Bhaktivinoda very sadly weeps. I failed to worship you, O Lord, and instead pass my days in vain. What will my fate now? So there's many songs like that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. With great enthusiasm, I spend my time in the pleasures of mundane learning. I never worship your lotus feet, O Lord. Now you are my only shelter. Reading on and on, my hope grew and grew, for I consider the acquisition of material knowledge to be life's true goal. How fruitless those hopes turn out to be, for all my knowledge proved feeble. Now I know that all such erudition is actually pure ignorance. All the so-called knowledge of this world is born of the flickering potency of your illusory energy, Maya. It is an impediment to the execution of devotional service to you. Indulgence in mundane knowledge verily makes an ass of the eternal soul by encouraging his infatuation with this temporary world. Here is one person who has been turned into such an ass, who for so long has carried on his back the useless burden of material existence. Now, in my old age, for want of the power to enjoy, I find that nothing at all pleases me. Life has now become agony, for my so-called erudite knowledge has proven itself to be worthless ignorance. Material knowledge has now become a pointed shaft and has pierced my heart with the intolerable burning pain of ignorance. O Lord, there is no treasure worth seeking in this world other than your lotus feet. Bhaktivinoda abandoned all his mundane knowledge and makes your lotus feet the sun and substance of his life. Hare Krishna, I'm going to stop here. Thank you for listening. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Any comment, question?
I just want to thank you. I enjoyed it and was amazed by some of those things you talked about with him. So I just wanted to say I appreciate it. Thank you, Mom. Haribo.
Thank you for appreciating him. Yeah, it is a very amazing personality. Very, very amazing personality. And so humble. He accepted the spiritual master of Vipin Bihari. And he accepted spiritual master. And it was obvious that the spiritual master was not on the same level that Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And still, he was completely humble in front of his spiritual master. And of course, later on, he fully accepted Jagannath Das Babaji as his, eternal spiritual master. And so It's yeah, as a magistrate, he was impeccable. As a family man, he was impeccable. It was so much responsibility. As a father, you know, he raised his son. A lot of his son stay celibate, practice Krishna consciousness. Of course, he prayed to the Lord to receive a very special son. And that special son, he prayed for a ray of Vishnu, that he will be a ray of Vishnu. And that special son is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his first son that he prayed for. And when his first son came, he was his umbilical cord was wrapped around like a Brahman thread. And then when he was just 6 months old, Lord Jagannath's cart came in front of their house and stopped, and nothing could move the cart. Like people were pulling the cart, they were trying to put the cart. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he asked his wife, he said, take the baby to see Lord Jagannath. And so she took the baby and put the baby on the cart like that, because she was the wife, you know, of a very important person, so she could do that. And then as soon as Lord Jagannath saw his servant, he put a garland exactly around the baby, like fell, you know, like Lord Jagannath. And then after that was done, the cart moved freely. There is many instances also, like when he was very young, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur showed his determination, and that he was also a pure devotee born of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was extremely impressive personality, who stay married, take care of his children, and only in old age he retired. And yes, he's the one who discovered also the place of Lord Chaitanya's pastime. We didn't speak about that, but he had a vision. One night he had a vision. He was looking across from the Ganges river, and he saw a bright tree. And then he said, wow, like this is, because at one point he went to Vrindavan to retire, and he was spending his time in Vrindavan, and he had a dream. Lord Chaitanya came to him on that dream. He said, I know you want to spend the rest of your life in Vrindavan to chant Hare Krishna and retire, but it's not time for you to do that. You first need to excavate my birthplace and all the places of my pastime. And so from that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is shared with other Vaishnava, and they say, yeah, well, you need to do that. And he went to Navadvip, and he was the first one to uncover the real place. Because what's happened, Vaishnavism, after Lord Chaitanya left, very, very quickly, within a few hundred years, it completely degraded. And people were making money by saying, this is the place of Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, come and, you know, I make you visit, and you give money. It became a business. But the real place of Lord Chaitanya's pastime were really lost. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a vision. And after that vision, that's when he had a vision of all those American and Chinese and Japanese and Russian and every nation being in that place where Lord Chaitanya was born, and having big kirtan together. Yeah, very amazing personality. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for being here. Hare Krishna.